faceoff. Shoots it, deflected. Right in. Peter Angelo save rebound. Stastny stopped by Peter Angelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Peter Angelo just made on him as Frankie sparkling on that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to episode 54 of Tendy Talk, presented by the BLPA and the Hockey Podcast Networks. I'm your host Joe, better known as Wash Up Goalie on social media. Last week I chatted with Kurt Pflumm, the FDNY goalie who played in the FDNY NYPD charity hockey game we all watched on ESPN a few weeks ago. This week I chat with his NYPD counterpart Mike Nano. It was a lot of fun getting to talk to both goalies from the game in back-to-back weeks. So, without further ado, let's get to the conversation with Mike. Well, Mike, thanks for joining me on the podcast. Good to have you. Good to talk to you after watching you in that great game on ESPN.
Oh, thank you. The result wasn't what we wanted, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But before we do, the question I like to start off with everybody is, how did you get started in the game of hockey? I know it's big in New York, the game of hockey, but how did you get started?
So growing up, I found out my father was a goalie.
Okay.
So when I started, I started out playing forward, and then eventually after like a season or two, I was kind of like, that's it. Like I kind of want to jump in the net. And I remember my father telling me, we went and bought the equipment. It was basic, my John Brown pads, a block of glove. And I remember the guy brings it up with like $700 for my stuff to start. And my dad's like, that's it. Just so you know now, that's it. You're a goalie. Like we're not changing anymore. So you better like this position. So that was it. And then from there, I just, started, played house league for a couple of years and then travel and then up and onward.
Yeah. I like that you guys have house league out there because I grew up in Chicago and we had house league hockey, but now I'm in Minnesota and they don't have house league hockey. And I tell you what, if they did, my son would be playing because he doesn't like the idea of travel hockey because in Minnesota, you're skating 8 days a week with travel hockey. And to him, that's just too much. And it's like, there's a true value to house league hockey, especially at the younger ages. And I think we'd see more kids playing if it was in every state.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Travel takes a lot of time and a lot of money. So, playing just once a week, at home, like, locally too, it's not traveling hours. So you definitely get more people into the game.
Yeah. And I think I skated 2-3 times a week usually. And the way they had it was like a conglomerate of 3 or 4 associations where, we were all in a close geographic area and, each association had maybe 3 or 4 teams. So you had a good sized league and, you weren't traveling more than 25 minutes from the house to get to a game, which was nice. Good. And at the same time, you weren't at the same rink every single day. You got to go to the other ones and, there was the one rink where, God, you hated playing there because it just stunk. And then the other one always smelled like caramel corn. And it's like, you go to the different rinks and they're different creature comforts. So you wind up playing house league hockey just like myself. And then you played some travel. How far did you get in the game?
I played ACHA for Stony Brook. So it was one of the top programs in the ACHA. So it was a good program, serious, but not too serious in college, So you still, you weren't living at the rink, but you did enough and it kept the competitive juices going.
Yep.
And then from there, then after college, I got onto the police department and then I was actually kind of almost as serious as the college was.
Yeah. So I always like asking this question of firemen and policemen is, why did you get on the job? Was it the family business? Was it just something you always wanted to do or, what motivated you?
I'm the first person from my family, I guess, to go into law enforcement. However, I was working 60 hours a week, fixing cars, and my buddy took the job and he was telling me he would get 3 days off every other week. And I was like, wait a second. I'm like, you get 3 days. Like I get 1 day off at this point. I'm like, this sounds like it's enticing. I didn't even think about now I look at it, I'm like the benefits, the medical benefits, the pension, like that was a smart move, but I just did it at that time for the days off. I was like, I just want to be homeless.
Yeah.
Be home. It was great. But
I look at my dad, he retired just shy of 30 years from Chicago on the fire department. And, you know, everybody's like, I think he retired. He was 55, I think, at the time. And everybody's like, well, why are you retiring now? Like, you can go till 65. He's like, what's the point? You know, if I max out at 65, I get an extra maybe $200 a month. Is it really worth that when I can retire now and enjoy my life?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, especially 55. Yeah. Oh, God bless. Thank you for your service. 30 years is a long time. I don't think I'll make this year 30 years, but
yeah.
It's a good run.
Mom and Dad, they moved out to a coastal island in North Carolina, and I think he's at a different establishment every night, making sure the locals are having a good time.
Yeah, you got to support local business. That's good. It's
yeah,
good on him.
Yeah, exactly. He deserves it. Mom and Dad both deserve it. They've done well. So.
Oh yeah, no good. Yes.
Yeah. So you're the first one in the family to join the police department. Again, as Dad would say, you must not have been able to pass the fire exam then.
Well, it's a lot harder to get on the fire department around here than it is the police department. I'll tell you that.
You know, I don't know about that. I got a couple buddies that joined the FDNY, and if they can get on, you know, in fact. Talking to those buddies, one of my college teammates plays for the FDNY hockey team, and he happened to hit you pretty hard in that game a couple weeks back at Madison Square Garden. Jimmy Becker.
Yes. So that was probably the hardest hit I've ever taken in my life. Like I got rocked. I didn't see him. He was blindside. You know, he blew an edge going in the net.
Yep.
You know, I played against Becker for years in this game, and the period ends, and one of my other buddies I played college with, he's on the fire department, and he comes up to me, he's like, listen, Mike, he's not.
You're back.
Yeah, like the whole program shut off for a second. That was weird.
You were just saying, you know, at the end of the period, one of your teammates.
Oh yeah, one of my college teammates. So he plays for the fire department, and he came up to me and was like, listen, he's like, it was an accident. He's not that kind of guy. Like, he's not that type of player. He just lost an edge. And I was like, listen, I'm like, I don't even know what's going on right now at this point. Like, I'm still in a fog. But Becca grabbed me after the game too and said the same thing. Like, listen, I'm sorry. I was going into the net. That guy just lost an edge. Like, and I'm like, just one of those perfect storms, for the most part. So. Yeah,
it was funny because I sent him a message. I said, hey, Scott, I'm hopping on the podcast with Mike. Do you have any words of apologies for him? And he responded that he had a chance to talk to you after the game and do just that. And it was funny because I was talking to Kurt last week for the podcast, and he was joking, saying, well, yeah, of course it was Scott. He can't skate. Or Jimmy, he can't skate. Jimmy and I, we played college hockey together at St. Mary's of Minnesota. And, it is, if you've skated against him enough times, the kid's always got a smile on his face. Yeah. And you're right. He's not the kind of guy that's going to purposefully run a goalie. Even if he's mad at him, he's not going to run a goalie. At least not when he's not looking. Maybe when we are looking, he would go after us. But
he's a good player. He's had my number over the years. He's got a couple out of me in that game. So
yeah, he is.
Sneaky backhand he has.
Yeah, he absolutely. So before we get into the game, I want to talk about your job a little bit. And I always like asking this of firemen and policemen. What's your favorite part of the job?
Well, now I got moved. I'm in a different unit now. I'm in this technical response unit. So we fly drones. We deal with cameras. So I get to fly a drone for work now at this point. Like it's pretty cool. We download videos like from, cameras, like, we put up covert cameras. Like, it's like, so this part now, after being on the streets for so long, is so much better. Like, it's not even, sometimes I pinch myself, like it's not even part of the job anymore.
So let's back up a minute. You're doing all of this high tech stuff with drones and cameras, but when we started the podcast, you couldn't figure out if your computer had a camera.
Well, what? I don't use this for work. I just, it's just a game. Like I said, it's a gaming laptop. This is what I get to play games on every once in a while. So yes, I thought I just assumed all these new computers had one. My work one has one. I should use that.
Well, it is crazy, all these cameras that you can have around town that people don't even know they're there. They don't know that they're pretty much, especially in a big city like New York, anytime they're out on a public street, there's probably a camera on them,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Everyone. Most most times in HD too. Like,
Yeah.
So it's, they're everywhere.
I remember post 9/11. So on 9/11, my dad was part of the contingent the city of Chicago sent to New York, and when he got back, they put him in a position with the Department of Homeland Security, and he was the only fireman policeman partnership in the city. So his partner was a cop, and they would drive around town doing stuff with Homeland Security, and the police commissioner would always come up to him and say, you know, for a fireman, you're not half bad. But that first 4th of July at Grant Park, he was working down there, and it was great because we got to park literally in the middle of Grant Park. And when it was over, hopped in the buggy and drove through the crowd and beat the traffic. But we're walking around, and he's got the little earpiece in, and you look around, you can't see a camera at all. And they tracked us all the way through the whole Grant Park and whatnot. It was kind of neat, and that was 20 years ago. So I can't imagine the crazy stuff you guys got now.
Oh, stuff now, it's wild now.
Yeah,
technology is always improving. Some of the things, the gadgets we get to play with, even just testing out here, it's wild. It is. It blows your mind.
I'm surprised you guys didn't plant cameras in the practice rink for the FDNY to pick up their systems.
They play the same system every year. We still haven't figured it out. It's not like they don't change.
No,
they're a muck it up team. Not like, but it's that's you'd think we'd pick up on something all these years.
Yeah, so when I was talking to Kurt last week, or even before I get to that, so you get on the job. How did you find out that they had a hockey team, and why did you join it?
So I knew going in they had a hockey team because before I got on, one of the guys I knew, he was actually one of the goalies on the team.
Oh, okay.
And the guy didn't, but I had no idea. Like, he's like, yeah, we played a fire department. It's a big game, whatever it is. So like, I got tickets and we wound up going, and I watched it. Like, it was at the Nassau Coliseum at the time, and I'm like, this is wild. Like, half one side's fire department fans, one side's PD fans. They fight. There's fights in the stands. I was like, oh, like, this is wild. So, I knew some guys beforehand that became cops. They were on the team. So when I got on, I was like, yeah, I gotta, I want to go try out, and I got to see. And I didn't, but I had no idea how like serious it was or how good the hockey is. So
yeah,
it's fun.
I think that was the thing about the game is a lot of people are like, oh, they're going to air a beer league game on ESPN, and then people tune in. They're like, oh, this is actually pretty good hockey. And, they kept saying it during the broadcast, like, this is not your regular beer league game here. This is, and part of that is because of the rivalry. And even on Spit and Chicklets, Ryan Whitney was saying, God, that was such a fun game to watch, the skill level. And, is there talking about the guys on the team, how many of the guys that have played college hockey and a few that have played, minor league hockey, there's some serious talent on both rosters.
There is.
And
it's getting better. Like, since when I got on the team 10 years ago versus now, the talent level from both teams, has gone up like exponentially. It's, there used to be a couple guys out there that you could be like, it's suspect on whether or not they belong on the ice, but now everybody can play.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's good to practice with that, to play against that caliber.
Yeah. They say you're only as good as the players you practice against. So that sure helps. I know on the fire department side, they play in a league throughout the season and they play in tournaments. I'm assuming you guys do the same thing.
Yeah, we do the same thing. We play, a couple men's leagues. I mean, obviously, talent wise, this year was different because the game was in September. It's normally in April.
Mm-hmm.
So when we played men's league this summer, we were playing against guys who were pro, home from college, like that live around here. So the teams we played this summer were night and day, like, the skill level, and you can't hit. So when you give those guys all the room they want, for the most part, the games were pretty much all-star games. It's high scoring. Goaltending was not at a premium, and they always look at you like, you got beat. Yeah, I got beat by a guy who plays for the Capitals, bar down, and you left him 15 feet away. Like, he's gonna score.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, I'm a cop. I'm 38 years old, and he's, he just finished his season playing, minor league. They're gonna score. But yeah, so we do that. A couple tournaments we'll do, cop and firefighter tournaments and stuff like that, and that's fun to play against other departments. Measuring stick to see how you do.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's fun and the travel always still get away with the boys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's not ignore the fact that those away tournaments are more than just the game. They're bonding tournaments, we'll say, not just with your own team, but the other teams at the tournament. It's once the game's over, doesn't matter who you play for.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. So I know Nashville has that big one every year, that big tournament for fire and police. Yeah, that's awesome. So, I was asking Kurt this too, from a goaltending standpoint, when you're going through tryouts, because I think a lot of people forget that to play on these teams, you have to go through tryouts. It's not just, oh, you got equipment and you can pay for league fees, you're on the team. No, you guys got to try out, what's the competition between the pipes? Is there a lot of guys coming out, or is there just kind of a handful of you?
Now it's a handful. My first couple of years, there were a lot. You'd have tryouts, maybe 10, 12 goalies.
Mm-hmm.
The last few years, maybe 5 or 6, like for the most part. But no, like early on, yeah, 12 guys. You getting, it's, and as a coach, you like, how do you even judge these goalies? You got 12 goalies rotating. Maybe I'm seeing 30 shots total. Like it's not like,
yeah.
So they kind of have to do the eye test on how you move. And, I know the first couple of years, there was a lot of good try out.
Yeah, I was telling Kurt last week, my freshman year of college, we had 26 goalies trying out for 6 spots. And that's the most I ever had for competition. Somehow wow. I got that. Yeah. So you talk about getting very few shots and how are the coaches really evaluating you. Somehow I got that 6th spot, and I had my college goalie coach on one of my early episodes, and I asked him, what the heck were you guys thinking? And he confirmed my suspicions that they knew I'd be a good locker room guy. They knew I had a quick door. So it was, they took me for the intangibles, not for my skill.
You need the intangibles. They're very important.
Yeah. Hey, I was a great practice goalie. I brought the fun to the locker room. At least I like to think so. They might say otherwise. So let's talk about this game. Just a couple of weeks ago, right before 9/11. A little more. What's the word I'm looking for? But it had a little more meaning than previous years, being the 20-year anniversary. And I know because of that, both teams wanted to win for big reasons, but that also means the pregame festivities were probably a little bit longer, a little more to it, more people coming into the locker room. How do you get focused and stay focused with all of that? Because it's not like you go out for your regular warm-up, Zamboni hits the ice, and you're back out there.
So I remember my first year, that was the one thing I was worried about. So because you finish warm-ups, and the puck might not drop for 45 minutes, after your warm-ups. So I try to get into the net right after, as soon as I can, and just do some basic movements, just even a couple butterflies, do a couple butterfly pushes back and forth, just crease pushes out, post out, just to kind of get the feet going again, get the blood circulating. And then you just hope that the first couple shots are, from the point with nobody in front of you, they get a feel of the puck, and then you go from there.
Well, and I think a lot of people, you talk about just the feeling, but I got to imagine there's something with, mentally too, because you got to get caught up in the ceremony, the anthem, and all of that stuff. And as you're standing there on the ice at Madison Square Garden, and, they're going through that stuff, you got to be thinking about, what happened just a few blocks away 20 years ago at the same time. And all of a sudden, now I got to stop hockey pucks.
No, that's true. Because they start reading the names of and they just do the people who've passed since last game.
Yeah.
Of not, and it's still a list, like, with all the cancers and everything that's happening, these people getting hit so many years after. And and then you get to a point where, like, you gotta, it might not be, it sounds selfish, but you gotta I gotta start focusing my mental game at some point, because even this year, it's like, this game's on national television. I don't want to go out and get pulled 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
So you start to focus now, like, not even tuning out, but like you take in a lot of the ceremonies you can, and then you're kind of like, all right, now I'm starting to think how I'm starting to mentally get into the, making the first save, where I want to put rebounds, what, I know their game plan is to get a ton of traffic. How am I going to, I got to fight to look through things. And then you start getting into that aspect, and then, hopefully it works out.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that it was on ESPN was awesome, because A, we got to watch hockey before the season started, and B, the game was great. And, I appreciate that they had Kevin Weeks on that broadcast, because he's just a great commentator and he's a goalie. So he points out the things you and I see in a game that other people don't. So I thought that was great. And, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the broadcast, but he had good things to say about you and Kurt at the other end. You guys clearly looked like seasoned vets for the big game.
Oh yeah, well, me and Kurt have been playing against each other now. I think it was the 5th or 6th head-to-head. The last 6 years. So, we know what to expect from the other. We know that the other guy's going to make big saves. And, it's who you got to make the big, try to keep pace.
Yeah.
And especially that Kurt kept them this year. Like we started out, I think the shots were like 22-10.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Kurt kept them in it. Second period, it ended shots were 22-10 after the first. I think the shots going into the second period were 35-34. I think we were getting outshot at one point. Like it's just a game of momentum swings. And they seem to be in a little bit better shape than us. So as the game went on, they they started to just keep the same level, and we dropped a little. And it is. But that game, if you told me it would be on ESPN when I first started playing it, I would have never believed you.
And I think it's great that ESPN is venturing out and doing things like that, because it's shining, from a hockey standpoint, it's shining a light on the game and how it impacts, the community in other ways, not just, the tickets we buy and the jerseys we wear. It's about more than that, because, at the end of the game, you guys shook hands. I'm guessing you guys had a few beers together. There were a few times conversations had to be had on the ice in close quarters, but after the game, it's after the game.
That's it. After the game is after the game. Yeah, no, we respect what they do off the ice, but with that game on the ice, there's no friends. Like it's just the way it is.
Yeah, so that makes me wonder, have there ever been a pair of brothers, one on the fire, one on the police, in the fire police game?
I don't think so. I'm trying to think. Not that I know of. I mean, we've had our fair share, especially now late last few years. We got guys that are policemen that jump ship to the fire department, and they always seem to be our good players. But I don't remember any brothers that would be on opposite sides. That would be great.
Yeah, because they would be dropping the gloves at least 2-3 times. Yeah, you have to. And, I think that's one thing people notice when they watch the game is the intensity, because of that rivalry between the police and fire department, which the only way to sum it up is it's a brotherly rivalry where you guys hate each other and love each other at the same time. You want to knock each other's head off and then help each other up off the ice.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a lot of fun, that game. But like it used to be, the first 10 minutes was just, in years past, you touch the puck in the first 10 minutes, you were going through the boards. They were trying to put you in row 5, 6, like it wasn't really hockey the first 10 minutes. Yeah. But as the skills picked up, like they're still hitting, obviously, like, as you can see, but it's more now, it's become more of a hockey game. Like, don't go out of your way to make that big hit, because now there's skill on the other side where you go out of your way to make a big hit, puck's going to find that spot you should have been in and can wind up in the back of your net.
Do you think maybe this year some of that didn't happen because it was nationally televised and guys didn't want to look like the goon too?
I think the national television helped a bit. Nobody wants to make a fool out of themselves, kind of on national TV. So
right, not like what happened at the Nassau Coliseum.
Not like that. That was full out slap shot that year. We can get into that later. That was wild. But yeah, this year it seemed to be more reserved. Like, if you have a chance to take the body when you can, but don't go out of your way to take the body. Like, you're gonna have plenty of opportunities to hit somebody in that 60-minute game. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mentioned the Brawl. It's probably just known as the Brawl too, and the great documentary on YouTube, Rivalry City, even touches upon it. And I love that they have the guy that started it, and he just kind of chuckles and goes, I think I helped the game because now we sell out every game. You know, it's helped ticket sales. So what's your side of that story? I've heard some views. Again, one of them was from my buddy Jim. What's your side of the story and how that went down?
Well, I mean, it was a weird thing because it was a stoppage in play. So I'm just, stoppage in play. I was kind of just skating around, and it just how happened to be second period. So to change, you had to go past, you were going past their bench, and
yeah,
guys bumped into each other. Somebody threw an elbow from what I hear on their team, and our guy turned around and tried to whack him, and the stick might have got a little higher up than he wanted, and it happened to be right in front of their bench, and they didn't take too kindly to it because it was one of their better guys.
A little higher than the crossbar.
A little higher than the crossbar, and then it's just straight up chaos. And I'm just sitting there watching. I'm like, this is escalating. Like now everybody's on the ice, and their goalie at the time was this guy Sean, and Sean is probably 6'4". He's tall, lanky, and everybody was like, "Why didn't you fight?" And there's a picture of going around of me standing next to Sean during the fight, and he is head and shoulders above me. And I go, "Listen, I might be a civil servant, but I'm not stupid. Like he would mob me. Like, he would be, And thankfully, I got to know Sean after that, and he's a great guy. And I'm glad we didn't drop the mitts there because I probably would have. Thank God it would have been national team, but I would have been embarrassed.
I forget who the goalies were in the NHL, but there's a bench clearing brawl, and the one skated down to the other end and kind of said to the other guy, like, "All right, let's just tie up and make it look like we're doing something." But yeah, I mean, when you're a goalie, it's just
he skated out.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, he started to skate out, same thing. So people started going nuts because now the goalies are coming. He shook his hands, like, "Do you want to drop him?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. I want no part of this." But you also in that game, you don't know how they're going to call it. So I didn't, at that time, I think in that game it was 3-3. And I knew like our backup situation, they had the advantage goaltending wise backup situation. So I was like, if they decide to throw both of us out for fighting, now my team's in a world of trouble. So it's like, we got to smarten up. Luckily in that one, we did win that game. And I remember going out after and people texting me like, "It's on TMZ. Like TMZ has it right now." And I'm like, "We're like, you're trending nationally."
It's funny you mentioned
that was wild.
You were thinking about the backup situation where, okay, if something happens, how does it impact the team? I was playing in a beer league game a couple years ago, and we had a father-son on our team, and somebody from the other team cross-checks the dad into the boards. The son's right there, so he takes the offender out. Well, their goalie comes out and takes this kid out. So it's basically a 3-person fight. The ref comes, throws all 3 of them out. And the other team's like, "We don't have a backup goalie." And the ref goes, "Goalie should have thought about that before he came into the fight." There was maybe eight minutes left in the game. We had like a 8-goal lead on it. So it's not like it was going to really make a difference in the outcome of the game. And my team, we're like, all right, we're just get over the red line and dump the puck into the corner. We weren't going to be that team that was just trying to pile it on. We did wind up scoring 1 goal. The guy tried icing it from behind our neck, so we took a penalty, and it hit a piece of ice and veered off to the right and went in the net. And we're like, "Oh, Jesus." But every time they were skating out of the zone, I'm yelling at my defense going, "Pass me the puck, pass." Not one guy gets it until about 10 seconds left in the game. My defenseman's skating out of the zone. He hears me. Then he clicks. Oh, I know what he wants to do. Yeah. Passes it back to me. I sail it down the ice, and I'm not great at playing the puck, but the other team saw what I was trying to do. They could have stopped it. They got out of the way. My teammates let it go. It's just going. And again, one of those little pieces of ice, and it goes wide of the net. It's like, oh, geez, came that close to getting a goalie goal. But yeah, it was funny that goalie, he didn't think about what the backup situation was, and it cost his team.
Well, I'm also thinking down 8 goals too with 8 minutes left. Maybe he wants to get out of there too.
Yeah, he was going for the cold beer in the locker room at that point. So I want to be mindful of time. So we've been talking almost half hour already. I like to ask every guest a list of the same 10 questions. I call them rapid fire questions. They're really not rapid fire because they tend to take about 20, 30 minutes because of the stories that come out of them. So the first question is, what's the craziest coaching moment from your playing days?
Craziest coaching. Oh, okay. So we had a coach when I was playing travel who was very, very adamant about getting to the game an hour before. So you had to be there an hour before. Now, granted, we're 12 maybe, so I'm reliant, and you're like everybody at that age. My parents control when I get to the game. It is what it is. So I remember I got there, I think 58 minutes before the game. The other goalie got there 56 minutes before the game, and he said, "All right, you guys missed the beginning of the game. You're supposed to be here, on an hour before. So I'm starting the game with 6 forwards who all got here on time, and we'll start the first couple minutes with an empty net." And I think we were up 1-0 at that point. I think too. That was why I was like, "How is this guy starting a game? With both goalies on the bench. This is crazy." So that was probably the wildest coaching story I've seen.
That's like the tweet you see going around where the guy says when he was younger, the coach made him run laps because he showed up to practice late. His dad drove him. His dad was also the coach.
You have at that age, you have no control.
No.
So I mean, listen, I can understand getting there 10 minutes before the game. But we were talking like it was like within 5 minutes of the allotted hour.
I always liked getting to the game early, and then my dad'd be like, "We got plenty of time." I'm like, "Dad, no, we don't. It takes us 15 minutes to get to the rink. I'm a goalie, so it takes me a lot longer to get ready." He's like, "We need to leave now," and he was just like, "We're fine." And now all these years later, even for beer league, I still get to the rink like 50 minutes to an hour before the game, and sit in the locker room all by myself for about 50 minutes until the Zamboni hits the ice and my teammates come filing in the locker room. I always joke that, the bus showed up.
Sorry about it. So I'm on the Wi-Fi at work was being spotty. And now, so we were using a hotspot on one of our phones.
Oh, yeah.
Now the Wi-Fi at work has seemed to have fixed itself. So I think we should be good now going. Yes,
awesome.
Now we should be forward. Yeah, so now we should be much better.
Yeah, I was having that problem earlier today and made sure I restarted my router beforehand. So it's just being goofy.
I think you said we work in this unit. I can't even get the Wi-Fi to work.
Yeah. So my next question is one I like asking. It's what's your favorite rink that you've played at? And you've played at some fun ones because of the rivalry games.
Yeah. Favorite rink? It has to be Madison Square Garden. It's also the hottest rink I've ever played in. But yeah, Madison Square Garden, especially now with the renovations, it's the best. The ice isn't the best, but it's just everything else, Yeah. You look into the rafters, the iconic ceiling, you can't. Nothing beats the world's most famous arena.
So when you're playing in a arena like that, what are some things that people don't necessarily think of when you're playing in a big rink like that? From sight lines to even seeing the puck.
Yeah. So I have sometimes you lose the puck. You'll in the crowd. Even if the crowd's full, that it hits a certain level. The seats are dark. The clothing. So you might lose it a little bit. The heat. I lose sometimes 5 to 7 pounds of just water weight after those games. How much you're sweating and how heavy your equipment gets. When those games in the NHL, those guys are going to triple overtime. It's and they he got a cramp. Yeah, no, I can tell you why I got his equipment probably weighs 100 pounds at this point too.
Yeah,
as good as this stuff is, it's just it retains water.
It does. So what's your favorite stick that you've ever used?
Favorite stick. Well, I liked growing up. I had the branches sticks.
Yeah.
Which I loved. At the time, they thought they were the lightest. I mean, granted, they'd splinter everywhere if you got hit in certain spots, but I always have a soft spot for branches. Never got into the Curtis curves or anything like that. And it took me a long time to actually get into the composites nowadays too. I was a foam core to death kind of thing, like the flower is over there. But
I still am.
Yeah, you know what? And I was afraid of the vibrations on them. And I remember I tried a CCM Premier and I was like, wow, this thing's light. And I'm like, this thing's light. And then I'm like, it's actually, and I was worried about the durability. You look at the player sticks, they would break all the time. So I'm like, listen, I'm a little slow sometimes, blocker side. So I was like, if this thing hits the shaft, is this thing going to break? Is it going to shatter off? And luckily they hold up pretty well. So now I'm sold on the composites.
Yeah, I was coaching high school hockey when the composites came out, and some of my goalies had them, and they were just always breaking. They didn't last more than a month. And it's like, no way am I spending that money on that. My old reliable wooden sticks are doing great. And you know, I still had a few Christians at that point from college still. But yeah, I'm still using the foam core mostly because I'm cheap. You know, I can get a foam core for about $100 still. And I'm even looking at Christian still making some of the foam cores again. So I'm like, do I put it in order and get a couple of those, or what do I do for the next stick? I haven't decided yet.
You got to try the composite. Give it a whirl. They're good. Like, and the durability now, it's like I went through this season with ours. I was using the E-Flex 4s, and I think I broke maybe a couple during the course of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had, obviously have a practice stick and then certain ones for the game, but I think I broke maybe 2 E-Flexes in practices. And I don't like to give up the net in practice. So like we had 3 goalies, so the 2 stay down in their end, and I take everything. So it was seeing a lot of rubber, and it held up. Like I was surprised how well it held up.
Yeah, God, I'm envious that you get to practice. That's the one thing I miss the most. Is just practice, you know, because you're working on the game, you're seeing all those shots, but there's just something about the locker room at practice and the rivalry at practice. You know, you got those teammates where you got each other's numbers. There's just that battle going back and forth. You know,
it is fun. The drills they do now, I mean, not very goalie friendly.
No, they never were.
And I'm very, very competitive. So like the guys knew it. So, you know, they'd score on a tic-tac-toe. I have no business even being close to making the save, and they celebrate in front of me. Used to drive me absolutely nuts. But, you know, no, you take the rivalries. Like, you know, I tell guys, I'd walk up to them and be like, listen, I'm trying on you every shot today.
Yep.
You're not going to score. You know,
and then there's
a camaraderie. It's just a blast.
The other guys, I remember we had a kid in college. He had a hard shot. It was just one of those, every time it hit you, it left a bruise. And me and one of the other goalies, if we saw him coming down on a 1-on-0, we're like, nope, we just step out of the net. Like, it's not worth the bruise. You get so mad at us. He's like, how am I going to get better if you, it's like, don't shoot for our shoulders. Keep it on the ice. We'll be fine. And he's like, no, I want to go top corner. Like, well, there's your problem. But he didn't have the fastest shot, but he had the hardest shot. And, you know, unless you're a goalie, you don't get it. But we all know that guy that just has a hard shot.
Guys, this guy's it's heavy. It just, you know, like you said, they might not be the hardest. There's guys that I play with that have laser beams. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's coming out. If you're standing outside the net and you're watching it, you're like, holy cow. It looks slow coming in. There's other guys that it could hit you, like you said, like anywhere. And it's just a different feel.
Yep. It's like, it's like getting punched every time you get in the way of it. Where if it's at practice, you're just like, let it go. I don't need another bruise.
Like, those guys with us, I try to give them a little more room, blocker side, a glove side. Hopefully they pick their head up and they see that I'm giving them a lot more. That they don't. Yeah. You know, they still hit you, and it's like, dude, I gave you 3 feet. Like, you pick your head up. Like, you could fire, you could hit the corner. Like, I just don't want to get hit by it.
Yeah, no, we were like Goldberg and the Mighty Ducks, throwing our gloves on, like, here you go, take the net. So what's your favorite youth hockey memory?
So my favorite youth hockey memory, 2, I would say, but one, like, we won. I remember we played against my buddy's team. They were the first place team. We wound up playing against them in the league championship for the Long Island League Championship, and wound up winning 1-0. So, and I played very well, made a couple big saves on him. And in the other team, like whenever we were growing up, my travel teams used to be average. Mm-hmm. And the goal obviously was like the top 2 teams in your Long Island League would make the state championship. And it was always, you wanted to make the states. So I remember I even got older. Like my Bantam year, I think, was the first time we actually were able to make the states. We didn't do very well, but just the accomplishment of actually getting there. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like, you know, I think that's probably what the problem was. Like our goal was to get to the states, not to, you know, do well. But you would see some other teams up there that would just, they would just build to nationals. I remember with this Buffalo Saints, they were called. Mm-hmm. And I remember the 1 year in states, I come out to play the puck. Like you said, like you were saying, like, I'm not the best puck handler, but I came out and I got this thing high and I got it quick. Like I felt like I got the, and this kid behind his back knocks it from the side, behind his back, off his skate, back to his stick, and like I'm like, oh my god, this is a whole nother level. Like this kid, these are insane. But that was like making the States that was fun, getting this, just to play in that.
Yeah, when a player makes a move like that, you're just like, hey, nice move. And it's always amused me that when a goalie makes a good save, it's okay for the players to come and tap them on the pads and be like, hey, nice job. But when a guy just snipes you and you're like, that was pretty, your teammates get mad at you. Like, what are you saying that to him for? It's like, nice move is a nice move. You know, it doesn't matter who makes it.
No, it is. It is. Sometimes you got to tip your cap to them. I did that this year. So I remember in the game, the guy Shear gets a breakaway. And as a goalie, my mentality is I don't want to bite on the first move. So it's like, don't bite on the first move. Let him make the first move, then we'll react. And his first move was a backhand, and he got it up quick under the bar. And I was like, wow, okay, right. Like, and that happened twice to me because we played a charity game with us. I remember years ago, right after Hurricane Sandy at the Garden. And we're playing a group NHL alumni. So they have, like a couple guys playing, like they had like celebrities like Boomer Esiason was playing, he really could skate, but he's a big guy. And then they had Pat LaFontaine, Danico, Malakoff, like some good players. And I remember there's a high stick, somebody high sticks Danico in the third period, like breaks his nose. So they award. So now Danico, one, he's seeing red. I thought he was going to pummel the first guy he saw near him, but they give him 2 penalty shots because it would have been a double minor. So Danico takes the first one, makes a good move. I paddle. I make, he had me beaten for a guy with no hands, and it just shows you the caliber of those guys in NHL. And I paddle. He's insanely pissed at this point. And he goes, I'm not taking the next one. They send out Pat LaFontaine. So out comes Pat LaFontaine, and I have the same memory too. Like, don't bite on his first move, be patient, and his first move was a backhand under the bar. And I was like, well, that's why he was a 1,000-point guy in the NHL. Yeah. Like, it's just, it is what it is. But, sometimes they just forwards make good moves. You just got to be cap.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's a little easier to tip your cap in the beer leagues than it was, in the competitive days of high school and college. But teammates still don't like to see me, look at a guy and be like, hey, that was a nice move.
I'll tell him in the handshake after the game. That's what I'll do it. Saying like, hey, that was, listen, that was a nice move, a nice tip. That was,
I'll always tell him, a nice tip or something when I stop it. That I have no problem with. I always like when they'll come up to you after a big save and like, man, can't you let us get one or two? And it's like, no, the whole reason I'm here is to not let you get one.
Stop hitting me.
Yeah. We were playing a game a couple of weeks ago, and I did not have a good game. It was one of those, I was playing good, but the scoreboard didn't reflect that, one of those games.
Yeah.
And the guy, I had already let in like 5 goals, and the guy's like, oh man, you got to let us get at least one. And I just look at him like, dude, look at the scoreboard. You already have 5. And he just kind of stops. He's like, oh yeah, we do. But that was just one of those games I was having. And I mean, we've all had it where it's like, we're playing so good that the other team thinks that they can't get one from you, even though they got 5 on the board.
You got 5. Yeah.
It was one of those games. It was just funny. It was like, you've already got 5. And then he was like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to ask you. So what's the best chirp you've heard on the ice, off the ice, in the locker room, directed at you, not directed at you?
Well, it's not even really a chirp. I remember I had Bronx cheer or sarcastic cheer playing the fire department years ago. I had a rough start. And even it wasn't rough. It was one of those, you feel comfortable in the net. It's just shot hits a shin pad and goes in, or hit like, and I think it was like 2 of the first 3 shots went in, or 2 of the first 4 shots, and I stopped the dumping. And the fire department side gave me a sarcastic cheer, and I actually laughed, and I said, "That's fantastic! I've never had that before," and it actually motivated me, like not even to play better, but like just like this is fun. And I love this rivalry. That was probably the best. Having a Bronx cheer for stopping a dumping is probably my favorite. Although Penn State, when I played Penn State in college, they used to chant, "It's all your fault" after you gave up a goal, even if it wasn't your fault. Obviously, they probably were not astute to the game. It's like, listen, that was a backdoor tap, and that's definitely not on me. It's probably on the defenseman there, but they would point to you too, like, and just that was was a scary place to play.
Yeah, I've been in games where the opposing student sections would do that. Like you said, I did some coaching at the high school level here in Minnesota, and some of those Iron Range student sections, they could get pretty brutal on the goalies.
Yeah.
You
It's like, I'm
know?
just sitting here.
Yeah, it was always fun to hear what they had to come up with. And you know, you mentioned those games where it's like you're feeling good out there, but it's like the puck just takes a goofy bounce. 2 weeks ago, yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. It was one of those games. We only had 6 skaters. The other team had a full bench, so we're like, it's going to be a night, and it was one of those nights where my own teammates, they're trying to play good D, and they deflected 3 goals past me. I had 2 more where I don't know if you've seen my Instagram page, but I got some pretty old equipment.
I see the old ones, yeah.
Yeah, and so when I have my legs as close together as I can get them, I still have a 5-hole like that big.
Wow.
So played the puck perfectly. Puck still went right by, and then there's just I think there are like 5 goals like that. It was just like, oh Jesus, one of those nights.
But yeah, some of those nights, and then there's other nights where you get beat, but it's hitting the bar and it's going out, and it's like, all right, these are fantastic nights. But,
yeah.
Are you getting new equipment? I thought I saw you on Instagram saying you're getting new equipment.
Yeah, I ordered some Vaughn V9s. It was
that's going to be an adjustment.
Yeah, it is. It was funny because I'm in 34s right now, and when I ordered them, I went to the pro shop and we tried stuff on because 34s from 21 years ago are not 34s today. So I think I went with 32s. They may have even been 31s with a 1-inch rise, because we both agreed after this long, a 2-inch rise would be too much for me.
Yeah, it's an adjustment.
But a 1-inch should help close that 5-hole. Yeah, it's 15 weeks ago today I placed the order. And when I placed it, Ev over at Vaughn said, it's probably a 12 to 14 week wait at best. But he did send me a picture of my blocker yesterday, so I'm guessing we're getting close. At least one piece is done. That much I know.
Ev is a good guy over there. When I ordered, I had Vaughn Pro foam cores through him a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So he's good, Ev.
Yeah.
You're going to be in for an adjustment though with these new pads.
It was funny because after we submitted the order, he gave me a call and he's like, I just want to go over this because I see you had 34s and now you're going with 32s. Is that right? I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I brought my stuff to the pro shop. We had my pads up to the new ones. We saw where the knee landed was the exact same spot and everything. I was like, okay, I want to make sure.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I got some new breezers too, because mine are literally falling apart. I got to put the hip pad back in before every skate. So it's like, I might as well grab a pair of breezers, make them match the pads.
Yeah, it's gonna look nice.
Yeah, it's going to be an adjustment. I keep warning my teammates that when the new set comes in, they got to play some better defense, back check a little bit more, because I got to adjust to them. Oh
yeah, 100%. Like you said, with no practice either, like you have to wear them in games. Like you have no choice when you're playing men's, beer league or whatever. So yeah,
and it's not like we can go out on the outdoor rinks by ourselves and get some skating.
Yeah. You're right.
Although there's the great Steve Carell video of him practicing as a goalie by himself that me and my kids actually remade last winter on our backyard rink.
Oh, that's awesome.
So the next question is, what's the worst post-game beer you've had?
Post-game beer. Nowadays, like, I'm more of a beer snob now. So now the worst post-game beer is probably a Bud Light at this point. Or of course, like, if the guys are bringing beers, I'm asking them for to bring me like an IPA or something with a little bit of taste at this point. Yeah. I drank water the whole game. I don't need to drink it in the locker room afterwards. So I like to taste it at this point.
I'm with you. I'm a bit of a beer snob. I like my craft beers. I've done some home brewing. So it's like, I appreciate a good beer. Unfortunately, my team really likes cheap beer. One of the kids brought Warm Bush Light the one game. He's young. He's maybe 22, and he brought a 12-pack for the whole team.
Okay.
and they were warm. So we made it a point to drink them all before the game so that he didn't get one. And then we let him know that if he ever brings beer again, it better be cold and there better be enough for everybody to have two. Yeah. It was like, we're going to take the hit on this one and drink this warm, terrible stuff. But ironically enough, I don't mind a good cold Coors Light right after the game. You know, that first beer down it, because it's almost like water. It's refreshing enough. And then you pull out, the good IPA or something like that.
Then you savor. Yes.
Yeah. I was filling in for a team last summer, I think it was. And whoever's day it was to bring beer brought some good craft beers, but they offered me a stout before the game. I was like, I love stouts.
Yes.
But you do not want your goalie drinking a stout before the game. Like, I'm going to fall asleep by intermission. It's like, keep that in the cooler for after the game. No, I'm going to drink that thing up. No problem. And then I come to find out it was an imperial stout too. It's like, Jesus, did you want me to see 4 pucks that game? They're like, yeah, I didn't think that one through.
Well, so you're not the one who, the goalie is kind of important. You want to see, one puck, maybe 2, 1 puck, definitely.
Yeah. Me and my wife used to do wedding photography, and I always went off with the grooms and took the pictures with them all day. And grooms always had to do shots while they're getting ready. And they would always offer me shots. And I would just look at them and go, do you want your pictures in focus later on or not? It's up to you. And based on your answer is what I'll do. And they're all like, all right, at the reception then.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yes, deal.
We're not taking them 4 hours before the ceremony. We're not starting the shots together, boys. So when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
When I tape, I go toe to heel.
All right. You're one of the few. Why do you go toe to heel?
I don't know. I think that's just the way I think that's how my father showed me when I was younger how to tape a stick or whatever. So I guess that's what and I never adjusted. I didn't even know that I'm in the minority on this one.
Yeah. You're so much in the minority that not one, but 2 different guests have called people that go goalies that go toe to heel psychopaths. Oh. Now, I wouldn't go that far with it. But there's that feeling out there. I was talking to Connor Beaupre, and he goes toe to heel, but he's really good at playing the puck and does it a lot. And he just feels the puck comes off the tape better when he goes toe to heel. And it's like, well, I don't have that problem, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's just I don't even want to venture trying that. I think I would mess up the tape job right at the beginning of that. The heel is the hardest part. So I got to warm up before I get there. Is how I look at it.
See, I'm the other way around. I figure if I'm gonna make a mistake, it's at the heel. So why not do it at the beginning of the tape job? So when I have to start over, I don't have as much to do. And a lot of goalies I've talked to, of our vintage, I'll say, they have the same thing. It's like, well, when we started taping 6, you went above the heel and you made that curve because you wanted to preserve your stick a little bit longer. Now with the composites, most kids don't even go to the heel, yet alone up the heel. So it's not really an issue to them. But for us, there's no reason I keep going up that paddle a little bit, but I'm not as bad as Dominic Hasek going halfway up the paddle.
He was covering the logo.
Yeah,
I'm the same way. Even with the composite now, I still go up, after the heel.
Yeah, habit.
I just don't like the thought of the stick not having tape on the ice. I don't know what it is. It's not going to do anything, I guess. But maybe with the wood, you didn't want that with the wooden ones. It would get waterlogged and stuff like that. But now, it probably doesn't really make a difference. But aesthetically, I like the way it looks.
Yes. I'm with you. It looks good, and it's funny because there's some goalies that refuse to use black tape. I primarily use white tape. In fact, I got black tape right now because Carter Hockey Tape sent me some tape, and I was like, yeah, I'll try it out. They're a cool bunch out of, I think it's North Carolina, where they donate a good portion of their proceeds to veteran hockey teams.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, I'll use your tape. Because to me, is some tape stronger than others? Yeah, but we all retape our sticks pretty regularly anyway, so it doesn't matter.
That's
But I've seen some goalies go, argue tooth and nail what color you should be using. It's like, what's available to me today?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Although I do primarily prefer white just because habit. My biggest thing, I don't know if you ever talked to your teammates about it, but I always like my defensemen to use white tape because when I'm searching for that puck in the scrums, I want to be able to find it. And they're usually the ones trying to fish it out from under my gloves. So it's like, no, I want you guys to use white tape. And then the forward's like, well, should we be using black tape? It's like, I don't care what you do as long as you put it in the net, but I want to find the puck when I'm looking for it.
Yeah. And most of the forwards, they ain't coming down that low anyway. So.
No, half of them aren't even coming our side of the blue line in the beer leagues. It's that's always fun too when you're playing certain beer league teams, and there's always that one guy that he's like Ovechkin, never crosses the red line. It's like it's now a 5-on-4 in the zone, buddy. Like you're only hurting your team. At least hang out by the blue line so you can act like you're part of it. Maybe break up that D-to-D pass. Yeah. But so next question, what's your favorite number to wear and why?
Well, favorite number was 37. Why they just gave it to me. I remember my first year in high school, our coaches talked for so long after my high school had 4 teams. They had 2 freshmen, a JV, and a varsity. And they just ordered a stack of jerseys from 1 to 99. And varsity, obviously, they had tryouts first, so they got their picks. Then JV. Then both of our freshman teams at the time, we had tryouts. They picked the team. Our coaches talked to us for so long. The only number left in the 30s at that point, by the time I got the pick, was 37. So I said, whatever, I'll go 37. We wound up winning the league that year and won the championship. So I said, perfect. So I'll stick with 37. And I kept 37 all high school, all college. Got to the PD team, and one of the players was wearing 37. And I'm like, all right, like no problem. And my first year on the PD team, I didn't really play. So I was like, all right, whatever. The next year, the guy leaves. So I was like, oh, can I get 30? No, let me get 37. And they gave it to another forward coming in because we were cheap. So the jerseys that were made at the time were, there was a forward jersey, a forward would use it. And they wound up getting me a goalie cut 43. I didn't even get a say in the number. Oh. It was like, perfect. So 43 it is. And then fast forward to this year, about 2 days before the game at the Garden, we get these brand new jerseys that we were wearing because those aren't our normal jerseys. And the only goalie whose number was not, actually the only person on the team whose number was not right was mine. So he's like, listen, it came, it says 40. I'm like, all right. So they tried to get a 3, like overnighted or whatever. It just didn't. I'm like, listen, I'll just wear 40 at this point. So that was the number progression. I had texts from people like, why are you wearing 40 now? I'm like, oh, kind of, this is what it is. Like, that's just what happens.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do about it?
Funny that you went with 37 because when I was coaching one of our goalies, that was his number to the point where we had it obviously as one of the jerseys. So once he graduated, it was still like other goalies are like, oh, now I got to wear that number. That's not my number. Or like, that's what we have because of him. When he was a freshman when we ordered jerseys, and that was his number. So that's what we have for 4 or 5 years.
That's what happened. The same thing. And then I saw like Kolzig wore it, was 37. And
yep.
So I was like, all right, there might be something could stick on this at this point. If he's wearing it.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because we had a kid on our team. He had his mask painted like Kolzig, but with the school colors, but he wore number 1. Okay. And even when 37 became available, he's like, no, my number is number 1. That's what I wear. It's like, but if you're a fan of Kolzig, no, 1's my number. I was like, okay. He was also a full right goalie, so exactly. I let him know that every single day when we walked into the rink. So, but he was one of those kids that, when you start coaching, you learn the personalities of the kids, and there's those goalies you can pick on the entire time. There's the other ones you got to put your arm around and you got to coddle them. And then there's the other goalies, they'll let a goal in and you're just like, get your head out of your backside. And they're like, okay, but that kid was one I could just pick on and have a good time with.
Yeah, you're right, because I just started coaching. My buddy's coaching a team, has me working with his goalies, and it's the same thing. Like now it's like so different, like just the personalities
Mhm.
of like, like what works with one is not working with the other, or like, like one, and it's just, it's funny because like and I'm teaching them things like that I see thing, and like one of them he just played. This is just like he's been on ice for a year. He was a deck hockey goalie, so like for him primarily we're working on movement. His skating isn't,
Yeah.
it should be at this point, but he moves well. The other guy moves fantastic, but he's like, so he's tiny, like he, so it's like, but so I have to work with different things, and it's just the dynamic of like, even their confidence level is just different. The one who doesn't skate as well has a higher confidence level more like than the other one. It's like, it's amazing though. It's how you have to just treat each goalie, how much different, each one is. It's wild.
Yeah, it's not like when we were young playing where there wasn't a goalie coach,
No.
with the team, but B, coaches were just like, you're the goalies, I'll treat you the same. It's like, nope, don't treat us the same. We're very different. I think to my high school, I was pretty laid back, very receptive to coaches and listening and doing what they say. Then we had Don, who he would always tell us that his life plan was to take over the world. He didn't quite do that, but he works at a nuclear power plant now. So it's like, yep, fits the bill for you, Don. He's got, I think, about 40 acres, likes to shoot guns. That's Don. Then we had the other guy who I didn't like him very much at the time because we were always battling for that starter position, but he was just kind of laid back, not much bothered him either. It's just different personalities, and coaches always trying to treat us the same. But
that's the thing, we're not lumped together.
This is a good segue though to the last question: is what advice do you have for young goaltenders?
Oh, now at this point, I'd say you got to just let the goals are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was one you think you should have stopped or one you shouldn't have. Listen, you just have to, the best thing to do is just, once the puck drops again, once they, be mad or get mad at yourself for that couple minutes, that 30 seconds. But once the puck drops again at center, like you got to regroup and skating now. Focus on skating. Like this game has changed immensely. Like since my progression from like my first game 10 years ago to now, like the way my stance, I used to look like Richter Nabokov when I first started. Mm-hmm. Pads together, like up, and then by buying I don't know if it's the new equipment, the new skates, my angle of attack, I've gotten like a wider stance, and everything now is the butterfly push. I look at some of these kids now that skate nowadays, like the way they do these, like I watch them do circles around, like their butterfly pushes. They're like tights. I'm like this. I'm amazed by the skating. I'm like, I can't do that.
I can't even do a butterfly push with my current.
Well, you'll get it now. You'll get it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to like figure it out because it can help me in my game. That's for sure. But your point about goals are going to happen. You got to forget them. I don't know if you've watched Ted Lasso at all, but in one of the early episodes, he asks the guys, what's the happiest animal in the world? And they're like, I don't know. He says goldfish because they have a 10-second memory. And so after, something bad happens on the soccer pitch, he goes, be the goldfish. And it's like, yep, as a goalie, you got to be a goldfish and just let it go. But at the same time, you make that big, awesome save. You got to be a goldfish and forget about it and not get too cocky.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Because you make that great save and you're all excited, you're cocky, and then you're going to give up on 5-hole. And it's just like, man, I made that save. And like, that was one I shouldn't have, but I just gave them one that, I should have. So it's like that levels out. Like they always say, what's the purpose is stop all the ones that you're supposed to, make one or two the ones you're not.
Yep.
There's nothing more you can do as a goalie.
That's my worry whenever I make a big save. In fact, Sunday night in our game, I shot through traffic and just caught it and made one of those awesome windmill saves where the ref comes over. He's like, well, that was cool. I'm like, yep, got to focus, got to get past it. I had the GoPro behind me, so it's like I can watch it later and relive it, because goalies know this. When you see a big glove save like that, you can feel that glove, that puck going into your glove as you watch it. It's like that. I'll watch the tape later. I'll see it and be excited about it then.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now I did make a mental note of where in the game it was.
Yeah. Like when you look at the board.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look at the tape. Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but I hate when I'm at the end where I got to look over my shoulder to see the clock because I like to just look up and see where that clock is at all
Oh yeah.
times.
When it's
Especially,
behind you, yeah, that's
yeah,
terrible.
especially in beer league when you don't switch ends. So it's like if you get that end with the clock behind you, it's like, oh man, all night I'm gonna be going like this.
Yeah, turning around, that's the worst. That's the worst feeling. I hate looking back.
If I ever became dictator of the world, I would mandate that rinks have at least a time clock on both ends of the ice. It's just for goalies. It's just one of my pet peeves. I skate out of the super rink where they have 8 sheets of ice, and one of the sheets is for Bethel University and the Division III team. So they have the big scoreboard on one end, but on the other end, they still have, the time, the score, and the penalties, which is, I mean, they don't put them on the board for us because we only have one ref, but still, it's like, it's nice that even if I'm at the end where I even have the little one to look up at, I have something.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, the rink right next door is the training home of the U.S. Women's Olympic team. Somehow they only have the one scoreboard. It's like, how does that rink not have one on both sides? I don't get it.
All right.
Yeah,
we got to design rinks. That's what we got to do.
Yeah, it's a great rink to skate out of, though. Eight sheets of ice. I think it's something like 32 locker rooms. Always something going on there. So I know where to find you because that's how I found you to get you on the podcast. We just happened to be in one of the same goalie groups, and so we were able to. I think it was the day after the game we started communicating. Where can folks find you on social media if they want to follow you?
I'm on Instagram, mnano43, and Facebook is Mike Nano. If any goalies want to send some friend requests over or anything like that, always, I saw my Instagram requests went up exponentially during the game, just people, tagging me and then passing it around. I got a lot of requests, so it's always fun. But always, and the goalie groups are fantastic too. Like that's how I learned about it. Well, even all this new equipment and everything like that. Mm-hmm. The goalie groups they're insane. These guys, some of these guys, they love this equipment. Even one of the guys I play with, one of the other goalies, he just ordered a new set. So he got a set of Lefebvre's this year, and then he just texted me the other day, showed me the receipt. He just ordered a whole new set of Trews. They're a year old. He goes, no, I want this new strap. This wasn't available, but he told me 36-week wait right now for the Trews.
Yep. Yeah, and that's on the low end. I've heard it's worse. In fact, one of the guys from the pro shop said when I ordered my equipment, I ordered at the right time because True isn't hardly taking any custom orders. CCM, Bauer, they're not taking any custom orders right now because they're just so far behind because of the supply shortage. But Vaughn, they're still doing their stuff. He said Vaughn is Vaughn. They're slow but steady. But at the same time, ordering Vaughn, I knew it was going to take longer than if I went somewhere else because everything is handmade. Yep. And it's either in Michigan or Ontario. So it's like, I wanted that in a set that hopefully will last me 20 years, like my current set. That's the goal.
No, they will. The ones, it's good stuff. I wore ones for years and then decided to try the E-Flex 3s. I was like, I'll try them out and love the pads. I thought I liked them better than my Vaughns, but the glove, took me a couple of years to get used to the glove. Mm-hmm. I went from I don't even know what the stock break is on the Vaughn gloves, but I went with a 590 on the CCM, and it took a couple of years before I was able to figure out like the attack angle and adjust everything to actually catch pucks. But the Vaughn stuff, I love the Vaughn stuff is great. So just remember nowadays, you got to wear the new stuff loose. That was what I learned the first time I got these new pads. I put them on tight, and I was like, "What's?" And they're like, "No, they're supposed to be loose because when you go down, the pads will actually flail out." And like butterfly, I'm like, "What?" Like this isn't how I used to wear my older pads. Like, it was as tight as can be for the most part.
I was gonna say, I was talking to somebody about that. Growing up, you had those leather buckles as tight as you can get them. I do wear them much looser now than I did even in college, but nowhere near what the kids are doing today.
Some of them, they don't even have boot straps. Like it's in, like I look, it's like, I can't. I'm still old school in that aspect. Like I still want straps. Like I don't want, like they don't have straps. Like, so like your V9s, do you have any straps, or are they the Velcro?
Out of principle, I did get a strap up at the top, and then I have the boot strap that goes through the skate.
Okay.
Just out of principle, because my pads now, they have 7. They had 8 when I bought them, because they're so old, they still came with the toe buckle when I bought them, but I modified that pretty quickly. But it's like, you mention a toe buckle to kids today, and they're like, huh? What? But my pads can't rotate if I have that.
The changes in it, everything is just, even just from the skate lace to now, I use like the bungee, like the, bungee, like just the elastic bands. Like it's crazy. Even then, I wear my skates with the Lundy loop. I go through up top, like the bootstrap goes up top.
Yeah,
it's just strapping. It's just wild now how the game has changed.
Yeah, I got the skate lace to begin, because I said, of all the things to modify on those pads, that's the easiest thing to modify. Is like, I'm going to start with the skate lace, something comfortable, familiar, and then eventually I'll probably transition to the bungee as I get comfortable with the new style of pad. It's just thinking about those toe buckles, just getting those. Even when I was young and limber, those things weren't easy to get on. You had to get that pad up on your leg, and
then I even missed just getting hit in the skate where the buckle cut out. And I would just take those shots to the toe, and it was just like, and would break. Sometimes you take a shot and the buckle I'd see the piece of the buckle go flying. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah. Well, the fact that goalie skates don't even have cowlings anymore is just crazy. I mean, I still have my old Reactor 5, so I'm good for a while. But it's. I mean, that was one of
the cowling. Listen, I was baffled by it. But if you think about it now, the game has evolved. You're not making those skate saves anymore. So like you don't have, and it's not like you shouldn't be in a position where somebody's trying to shoot it off your skate in that the side. So. But I get, because I was worried with I'm like, I get these countless skates. Like if I get hit in the foot, it's just gonna like break my foot. Like no, I don't anything.
I inadvertently made a skate save Sunday night, and now I didn't actually get it with the skate, but I turned the pad over and everything, and I got it with the paddle. But it was just. It was a thing of beauty, where even after I made it, I was like, oh, that was cool. It's just old techniques die hard. And at the same time, I was telling myself, you're probably not going to make many more of those when the new equipment comes.
Those are probably going to be, your pad will fight you every step of the way to go up like that.
Yeah, I don't know if you follow Bones, the e-bug from the Predators, but he's bought an old vintage set of like the old brown leather pads and everything, and we're always texting back and forth. He's like, so what do you do in this situation? Because he knows, like when I went to goalie clinics, like they were teaching us skate saves and 2 pad stacks and everything. And I told him he's got to get up here to Minnesota this winter, and we'll do some content where I teach him proper 2 pad stack recovery and whatnot.
That's how I was raised. That's how my goalie coach. I had a goalie coach that we worked with every once in a while when I was younger was Gilles Villemure, who shared what's the trophy now? The goaltending trophy.
The Jennings.
The Jennings, he won a Jennings, but he was same way. Like it was practicing skate saves, and granted, this is like in the 90s, so like skate saves were still there, but they were tending to like the butterfly was starting to happen, Bros door and like that kind of was evolution. But he was working on your skate saves, and you're standing up like this and you're kicking your leg out, and it was just and
that's how check recovery.
And it was 2 pad stacks and stuff like that. But I remember that same charity game that I talked about, we're playing, and I wanted to throw a 2 pad stack against the NHL alumni guys. So opportunity presents itself, and I'm like, here it is. They pass it to Ron Duguay, and I'm like, I got this. I'm doing the stack, but I don't realize that Duguay played against the stacks. So like to him, it wasn't like an anomaly. So he just went bar down, like it was nothing. Like, and I was like, But I throw a 2 pad stack in practice nowadays against these guys, like my teammates. They have no idea what to do. Baffled. You don't see it.
I showed up to a summer game about 2-3 years ago early, because again, I get to the rink an hour before, and there was a high school team taking the ice for a summer practice before us, and they only had 1 goalie show up. So their coach is like, hey, if you want some extra practice. Is like, yeah, I'll take a practice and, get ready for my game. It's like, but I'm not skating wind sprints. He goes, I wouldn't expect you to. And first, we're standing by the boards as the coach is going over drills. And the other goalie does one of these. He goes, what's with all the straps? I was like, that's what they used to come with, bud. Whereas he was one of those didn't have one strap. And then we're scrimmaging toward the end, and there's a beautiful two, pass across the ice guy's back door, and I stack the pads to my blocker side, make the save, and the rebound just pops right back out to this kid. He could have easily put it by me, but he just stops. He goes, how do you react to that? I've never seen that. And it's like, well, dude, you keep going until the whistle blows. But it was just right. He just stops dead in his track. He's like, what did you just do? It's like old school hockey. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Now, I stack the pads at least once a game, to the point where even guys in my league now, they just expect it. But luckily, I'm also still very flexible, and I can, on those cross ice passes, I can still do the split save. So they're like, all right, which one's he going to do? So I still have that element of surprise for them where I can get them. Yeah.
Well, that's what made Hasek, and that's what made Thomas like who they were, because like you were coming in as a forward. You're like, listen, I'm going to make this move backhand. His 5-hole is going to open up. When I'm going to slide a 5-hole in the butterfly, and Thomas would fall over.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hit the shaft of his stick. Like, why is his stick? Like, why is he falling? And you're like, those guys are the hardest guys to play against.
Yep.
You don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah. And it's funny because Dominic Hasek, people are like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just crazy out there. It's like, he knew exactly what he was doing. And I've heard him talk. He's like, the paddle down and the barrel rolls. He's like, they're in too close to lift the puck up and over. So I might as well cover as much of the bottom of the net as I can. And it was, there was a method to his madness there.
Yeah, you look at his career save percentage. It wasn't an accident. He's getting it all.
No,
it's not.
And it's crazy because people are like, how could the Hawks trade him? It's like, well, you had Eddie Belfour and probably the best years he had.
Yep.
And you have this unproven talent that started the season with the Indianapolis Ice.
Yep.
And, they're like, oh, we'll get Christian Rutu in return and see how he does. It's like, well, clearly the Hawks lost out on that trade. But,
yes.
Would they do it again under the same circumstances? Probably. Now, put those two in today's game, and they're going, that's a killer 1-2. But that's back when you had goalies playing 70 plus games a year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, the backup. He used to say, why used to walk into the coach's room, look at the calendar, and be like, okay, once a month, be like, I'm not playing this game. I won't play this game, and I won't play this game. And he would walk out. Like, so like the backup knew, like, okay, once a month, he said, this is the game I'm going to play. The backup didn't want to play, and that was it. Like, and that was it. They played, like you said, 75, 76 games. And it was a normal. So now you can't. Like,
no,
the game's it's too much movement to go, like the stress on the body now, the way the goalies move. You can't play that many.
Yeah. People say that, but I wonder, I think there's guys out there that could, but I think some of the coaching is moved to, we don't want them to, because like, I'm the kind of goalie, I rather play more,
I'm the same way.
I'll let my body tell me, might I be sore? Yeah, but it's a good sore. I'll let you know when I can't play. Don't tell me when I can't play.
Yeah. No, that's, they have the analytics, and now it's this, goalies on a back-to-back, and this, but.
Yeah, which again, it's funny because some of those goalies from the 90s were almost better on the second game of a back-to-back. It's like you purposely played them knowing that game one probably wasn't going to be a good game because you wanted that great game in game two. It's such a different game though, different equipment, different. Yeah.
You'll see it nowadays too. There'll be a back-to-back. The guy will get a shutout in the game one, and then the next day they're playing the backup. It's like you just got a shutout. Like how do you sit the guy who just got a shutout? Like this doesn't make any sense.
But I would have loved to have seen a coach try and pull that with a guy like Belfour or Waugh some of those guys. They see Keenan try and do that to Belfour and hear about that fight.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. It's true. It's different breed of these guys.
Yeah. Although I had a chance to talk to Eddie Belfour, and all accounts, Yeah, him and Keenan didn't get along famously, but at the same time, I think there was a greater level of respect there than people realize between
yeah.
those two. It was just that they were competitors, and that's where they didn't agree. Is they wanted to win their way.
Yeah. Well, they say
Yeah,
like this, but there's coaches also that feed off of like, they want the interact. They want you to come back at them. Like,
yeah,
like Keenan, Hitchcock, those guys, that's what they wanted.
yeah. I mean, we've heard enough episodes of Spittin' Chicklets of guys saying, once I fired
Yeah.
back at Keenan,
Yeah.
later on, he's like, "Hey, you've got my respect," and then never had a problem with them. It was like he would needle guys to see if they were going to stand up for themselves. I get it, not the way I would do it, or not something I would enjoy, because I was just go out there and compete and do what the coach says kind of guy. So. Well, I know I've had you for quite a while here. I see it's getting dark outside your window there. So I want to thank you for your time, Mike. It's been fun chatting. I'm sure we're going to keep in touch. And
Absolutely.
if you're ever out in the Twin Cities, give me a holler and we'll get some beer.
Same thing. If you ever come to New York City, let me know.
Yeah, I'm looking to do it next year. So we'll
let
see.
me know. Obviously, I'll be around. We'll do something. I'll tell you where to go. We got all the places.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I know, firemen, they can cook, but cops, they know where to go for the good food and the spots.
Well, I mean, because we have to. We can't just. I wish I could just sit in the firehouse just waiting. Just working out and sleeping. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were always on the move. So you have to know the good spots. Where's the good Italian sandwich? What's this? But I happen to work midnights most of my career too. So few and far, or even in the city that never sleeps, a lot of those places in Manhattan closed down. So scrambling to find a good deli.
I remember when I was home on breaks, I would skate at Johnny's Ice House right by the United Center. When my dad was paired up with the cop, they were based out of the 911 center right across the street. So Red hockey was right around 11 o'clock. So I get done at lunchtime and throw my bag in the car, walked across the street, went to my dad's office, like, "Hey, you ready for lunch?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I thought we'd just go to the little diner right there. And his police buddy's like, "You guys got a taste for Chinese?" And we're like, "Sure." He goes, "All right, get in the car. I know of a spot." We get there and the house is here, and you walk about 5 feet out the front door and there's a piling for the Dan Ryan Expressway. And it was a house. It wasn't really a restaurant. And you walk in, even though there wasn't a door to the kitchen, you didn't want to look back there because probably wouldn't have an appetite. Me and my dad were the only patrons without a gun on our hip. And it was the best Chinese food I've ever had. And it was one of those, you couldn't tell the waitress what you wanted because there was a language barrier neither could figure out. They just had pictures on their menu and you went, "I want this." That's how it worked. And tried finding the place again. We couldn't find it. We think it was just one of those fly by the night places. All the cops knew. And, so we went there. We had some great food for the evening. And me and my dad still joke about that place.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it. And we're going to keep in touch.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So I was telling Kurt, and I'm going to edit this part out. So after 9/11, my dad responded to New York. He was there about 10, 12 days. And he hasn't been to New York since. It's the only time he's ever been there. And they had friends that were going to get married last year in end of September in New York, but obviously the wedding got moved and it was smaller. So that didn't happen. But when we found out, me and my sister said, "Well, are you guys going to go to the memorial?" My mom goes, "Yeah, we're going to go. It'll be a day." And we said, "Of course." And so me and my sister made the decision that we were going to show up there, not tell Dad. We were just going to be there when they came walking up. And so that didn't happen. And then we thought about going this year, surprising them around the anniversary. But then we still didn't know what travel restrictions were going to be around. So the four of us have kind of committed. Next year's the year we're going to go. And we've talked about bringing all the grandkids and everything else, but only one of them was around when that happened, and she was 2. So we said it's gonna be a little too emotional to have them around. So we're just gonna keep it the 4 of us, and it'll be fun to go firehouse hopping with Dad too, because I know that'll be on the docket.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, it's a firehouse is a good. They'll be welcoming as always.
Oh God, yeah. He had a few buddies that he knew from New York. Knock on wood, they all survived. In fact, one of them, I can't remember his name, found out it was his work day, and the whole crew got knocked out, but he was on furlough. He was down in Florida, and my dad didn't know. He just saw that it was the crew and his work day. And Dad taught at the Illinois Fire Service Institute, and for whatever reason, this guy was an instructor there, but wasn't doing much. And he showed up for their annual fire college, and it was like my dad saw a ghost when he saw him come walking in the tent. He's like, "Oh my God!" And he's like, "No, I was down in Florida with the family." Yeah, one of those crazy serendipitous deals.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so my wife's family, they had 3 brothers, all firemen. One was stationed in Brooklyn. The other 2, one was in Manhattan. I don't know where Timmy was. And the 2 brothers, Timmy, the guys that were closer in Manhattan, they both working, and they wound up both getting. One was killed on the South Tower, one was killed on the North Tower. And the third one, Kenny, he actually responds to the scene, like coming from Brooklyn. It was after the fact, the towers were down, and he had no idea, like, he's in the wrong, like, going through that both of his brothers at this point, like, passed away, insane. So yeah, so every year we go to Memorial Day. We're in Seaford High School on Long Island. Seaford High School lost 5 people, the 2 firemen, 2 people worked for like Cantor Fitzgerald, and the other guy was an NYPD cop, actually at the police plaza to put his paperwork in to retire.
Oh, geez.
And he hears the towers. So he hears the towers and he pulls his papers and he's like, I gotta go. When he went to that, he wound up getting killed. So it's just, so every year we go to Seaford for that, like for that memorial, whatever it is, like with her family, like let's say like her aunt, like her, the mother going, every year. And it stinks every year, like you're reliving it because the coverage is always showing the tower. You're always seeing planes at the towers and like, and it's just like, you're never going to get over it anyway, but it's like, time's supposed to heal. But
every year I just give my dad a call on that day and just, how you doing? Don't even bring up the anniversaries. Just, hey, what are you doing? For some reason, last year was harder on him as it got closer. And I could tell that. So I reached out to some people he had worked with, Bobby Hoff, who was the fire commissioner for a while. He was in New York with them. Some of the guys I went to New York with them, the old chaplain who, when the guys got back, he made sure he sat down with them regularly. And Father Mulcrone, he always had the best dirty jokes too, to the point where my dad was in the hospital once, and my grandmother, she was the good Catholic that she wouldn't just go to church on Sunday. She'd go on Wednesday as well. And she comes in and she sees Father Mulcrone leaning over my dad close, and she thinks he's reading him his last rites. And then it comes out that, no, Ma, he was just telling me a dirty joke. Well, then she darn near beats Father Mulcrone. How dare you? You're a priest, this and that, Papa. So yeah, it made sure some of those guys reached out to him, and that helped. But yeah, Dad likes telling the story when they were relieved of duty and told they'd be going home. There was a cop near where they just set up camp literally on the street. There was a high school right there. I can't remember the name of it, but they just set up camp right outside this high school. Slept on the sidewalk. There was a cop nearby, and he goes, there is one bar open. It's like 4 or 5 blocks away. It's outside of the perimeter, but they're open. So the guys went in. They had maybe $300 between all of them. All they know is they drank all night on $300. But they were all just shit-faced when they tried coming walking back, and the National Guard wasn't going to let them. They're like half a block. They can see their trucks. They're like, look, Chicago Fire Department. That truck says Chicago Fire Department. No. And luckily the cop that sent them to the bar happened to be right there. He's like, no, guys, I sent them there. They're going home tomorrow. Let them through. I'll take responsibility for it. But it was just one of those, those guys were looking out for each other. It was funny. So, well, Mike, it's been fun talking. and we'll definitely keep in touch. And I would say good luck in the next go around with the firemen, but my allegiances lie elsewhere.
Fair enough. I gotta decide whether or not I think this one might have been the end. I'm 38 now, got a couple young kids, so it's like my wife, she didn't even go because of the way they would do it. You had to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
To go, so and it was a school night, first week of school, and she said, like, she's watching me on the ice after that hit from Becker, and she's like, "You're too old to be taking these things." Like, I'm not even there. People are texting me. Like, is he gonna get up? Is he all right? I mean, like, I'm like, yeah. Like, I understand, but like, but it is normally it's a long season. Like, we would start in September and we're going to April. So this year, I think they're talking they might want to play again in April, either at the Islanders' new place or the Garden again. They haven't decided. But I'm like, if they start skating again now, I'm like, you've been skating in June, so it's gonna be June to April. That's like, like it's a long season, and especially with work, like, it's like
between work and when you have young kids. I mean, I took a break from skating when my kids were born till they were, as we said, until one of us could put them to bed by themselves, on their own. I didn't play hockey during that time. Maybe once or twice I'd get a phone call and I would say, yeah, I could go. But when those kids are little and starting to get into their activities, it's hard. And
it is like, so I was playing roller hockey they actually played roller goalie, which is, I don't know how, it's hard. And we played Sunday mornings, over 33 league. And same thing now, the kids swim lessons are starting. So now there's swim lessons for the kids. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to play this season. It's kind of like, all right, like, I still play. I'm like on a travel. It's like a travel roller team for the most part. Mm-hmm. So it's a couple tournaments a year. Actually, still gets the competitive juices flowing. I kind of want to win these guys. So, but it's only a couple. So this is perfect for me now. Like, to keep it going. So we'll be doing that. But I think might be Michigan. The finals, the big tournament this year might be in Michigan. I think in the summer. I think it's Michigan.
Oh, fun.
So I have to see. Yeah. So that's a big trip. Same thing. But it's fun to my wife too, because I'm like tonight I'm working nights. Yeah. So it's like, she's putting the kids to bed. So every other week she's putting the kids to bed by herself. Yeah. So it's like, and it's a lot. My daughter's 2.5 and the little guy's 1.5. So they're like, they're maniacs. So it's hard on her. So I understand. So
we got a couple guys. We got a couple guys. They got young kids, so they're on our sub list.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, so and she said, like, same thing. Like, even if I go to practice, we practice in the mornings, but the practices are on Mondays. That's my day off. Mm-hmm. So I have to have somebody watch the kids then on my day, and then it's like the games are at night, and then it's always like, so she's like, you're not 2 days you're off, and one day you're going to be going to practice. And I'm like, I hear you. Like, I kind of understand. So
it's family always comes first, and I've got a 13 and 14-year-old, and it's worth spending time with them. Even now, there's sub fill-ins I pass up because I can spend time with my kids, and that's time you don't get back.
No, and I can see how fast they're growing, how fast it goes too. It's like,
my daughter went to homecoming this year as a freshman, and it's like, Jesus Christ, what's happening here? Thank God she just went. Now kids just go to dances on their own. Thank God she didn't have a date, because I'm not ready for that. I still see her as that little 2-year-old.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Like, oh Lord. Yeah,
it goes fast. So. But I appreciate you having me on.
And, I'm excited that I was able to get you and Kurt on for back-to-back weeks.
Oh yeah, Kurt's for the most part, he's quiet. Like he's like he's not on social media. Like, he's a good kid. I actually played with his brother in college. Like, his brother was on my team, so like I didn't even know, like, he was until after the fact. I learned that after the fact. Yeah, when I put the names together, I'm like, like, but he's Kurt's quiet. He's reserved. He's just not a social media guy. So
it was funny. I was searching all over, and I mean, that's how you and I connected. You're like, he's really not on there. So I reached out to Jim, and he's like, Kurt said he'd be interested in doing the podcast. Here's his email and everything. So, but like on the fire side, for them to make practice and everything, they got to put in their trade. So he was doing a bunch of paybacks right after the game. So
you got to put, because they run a whole, like, their guy, like, same thing. They do the 24s. They don't work as much, but like their coach sometimes, like, they wanted to go to like Colorado for like 2 weeks, and they were like, listen, we're good with time, but like, we have families. Like, you want us to go like to Colorado for 2 weeks? Like, that's a long time to be, So, but they run a wild. They run a wild. Like, their guy, he thinks it's them. That's it. Like, it's FD hockey, forget the kids and that kind of like this is what it is kind of thing. And it's like, hey, one of my buddies, his wife's pregnant, so he's like, hey, I can't go to Colorado. They were going to Colorado for a week. They were going to play a couple like almost like SPHL teams kind of thing, like So they're going to play like this team three games in 4 nights of full hitting. Like it was going to be bad, but he's like, I can't go. My wife's she's like 9 months due. She's going to be due at that time. He's like, okay, all right. So fast forward, the baby winds up coming earlier. So they were going to go to they were going to like, he had a league game that night. Right? So he's like, oh, hey, listen, we're going into the hospital right now. Like, I can't make the game tonight. Like, we're going to, my wife's going to have the baby. He's like, oh, okay. That means you can come to Colorado now. And it was like a week, like Colorado was like a week later. He's like, no, I'm not like, I can't leave her home with like, like a 1 week old. Like, it's not how it works. So it's just different people that don't realize it's funny. But that's when he tells that story. I always laugh. Like the other guy was like, his wife was pregnant. He's like, well, bring her out. He's like sending him like gynecologist doctors in Colorado. He's like, you can't fly. It's the 3rd trimester. He's like, and I'm not going to bring her out there, like, because for hockey, like when she's like 8 months pregnant. Like he's like, they just don't understand. Everything's hockey. So, like, that's funny.
Yeah, I love the game, but there's a limit. Like, all right, somebody's pregnant. That comes first.
Yeah, that comes a little first. Yeah, I'm not going to throw my wife on it. Yeah, that's funny. Like, they tell me these stories. I'm like, geez, he's nuts. But it works. They've been winning, so it works.
It works.
But thanks again for having me on, and I look forward to listening. I tell my friends, so you should get some subscriber boost soon.
And so next week I'm gonna drop Kurt's episode, and then the week after.
Okay. And perfect. So I'll be listening next week to Kurt.
I'll be putting stuff out on social and tagging you, so you'll see it coming.
Oh, awesome! I appreciate it.
All right. Well, have a good one. Thank you.
And then stay safe.
All right. Bye now. Mike was a fun guy to talk to. I may have joked with him a bit about being a cop, but I have nothing but the utmost respect for him and his brothers and sisters in blue. It was fun hearing about his start in the game and his side of the FDNY PD hockey game, especially his side of the collision with my former college teammate Jim Becker. Be sure to find Mike on social media at Mike Nano 43. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube simply by searching for Wash Up Goalie, and I'll pop up. Visit washupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights, and of course, all podcast episodes. If you want some Wash Up Goalie or Tendy Talk apparel, be sure to visit my Threadless shop by clicking the merchandise link on my website. If you like this podcast, go listen to the BLPA Big Show. It's the OG BLPA Podcast Network show where a couple of beer league players talk beer league hockey and draft experience shenanigans. Be sure to check out the full lineup of hockey-related podcasts on the Hockey Podcast Network as well. There are too many lists here, but shows like the Between the Whistles podcast, the Grit and Bear podcast, and the World Hockey Report podcasts are all found. I need to thank the band Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on my podcast. You can download their music on iTunes or listen wherever you stream music from. I'm also always working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Let's not forget, if you're a brand you want to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me. Be happy to talk. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a small action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.
These are all good things. So just get into the rink. Intuition and brains. These are all